notice of meeting attendance. Hoping that there is a notebook going around for everybody to sign. If there's not, we should have one, and I wish everyone would sign it. The second matter along those lines is this meeting was posted at the Nations Complex and on the administration building, as well as many different parties received notice via email of this meeting. I think it was properly posted, and we appreciate that. The third item on the agenda is public comment. I would ask that we please limit the public comment to 3 minutes per person, which is noted on the agenda. And so at this time, I would open the floor to any public comment. Please, if you have something that you would like to say, if you don't mind, stand so everyone can hear you and see who's talking, and also give your name and address. So with that, does anybody have anything to say?
Does this have to do with the landfill?
See, there you go. You didn't stand, and I can't tell who's talking.
It's in wheelchair.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Okay, someone says.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Well, we're going to be talking about the solid waste permit modification.
Do what now?
We're going to be talking about the solid waste permit modification at the Cherokee landfill. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I got a comment about that.
Okay, please tell us your name.
My name's Monroe Galcaster.
All right, and your address.
Stillwell, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I'm a Cherokee Indian. I'll be jumping up and down and tell you I'm a Cherokee.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I'm opposed to that out-of-state trash coming in. It has polluted our area, place where we used to swim, fish, drink water out of, and that landfill is just sitting right above the creek down there. And I know that place is contaminated, and that jeopardizes our health. Me, my kids, my grandkids. And there's no telling what will come about later on after, what disease will come up, what kind of sickness will come. And, a lot of people think it's got that water where it's fit to drink. I don't think it is. I wouldn't drink it. Would you all drink it? I don't think any of us here would drink that water. No. Why would you all expect us to take that trash down there? There's a lot of stuff out there in that dump ground. There's a lot of hospital waste. There was some trash supposed to come from Kentucky at one time. I know about that place. And then why there's so many trash dump areas between here and Kentucky, how come they didn't take it down there? Because nobody watched that landfill up there. All that dump was coming in. I got a friend that dumped 40 loads over in 1 week. Nobody ever asked him what he had in that truck. Nobody gave him any paperwork. Nobody cared. And you go through their highway, runs by mother's house, and on the other side, when you go through them highways, there's trash laying everywhere. And the road stinks because they get behind them trucks. The stuff spews out. It ain't just a landfill, it's polluted, it's everywhere. You can smell it going down the highway. Y'all expect us to live like that down there? I don't think so. That's in our backyard. And I'm opposed to it, and it goes all the way down to Sequoia County, all the way through Arkansas. Folks, if that out-of-state's coming in and y'all let it come in, I will picket Cherokee Nation. I'll picket state capitol. The Cherokee Nation's no different. We'll get right out there and we'll picket that place. I call news media out here. That's what I plan on doing. News media will be out here. And that's what I plan on doing. I don't want no out-of-state trash coming in.
You understand, sir, that we're not here to determine whether or not out-of-state trash comes in or not.
Well,
that is not the question before us today. And with regard to your comments about we'll have the news media and we'll pick it. I support your right to do that in every respect. And if that's what you feel is necessary, I'm for you. We're here to try to determine what is in the best interest of the Cherokee Nation with regard to that landfill.
Well, I am the Cherokee. I live in the area. And that's my interest. Would you like for somebody to pollute your area over there in your backyard? I don't think so. And not mine either.
Is there anything else?
I think this is all I got to say. And anyway, there's been a lot of trucks that come in there. A lot of trucks come in there, had everything, a lot of stuff in there, no documents. Can Cherokee Nation show what's in that dump ground? Do y'all have documents? I don't think so. That place is not safe, folks.
Okay. Anyone else have comments? Mr. Critt?
Jack Crittenden, Stillwell from, I have a property adjoining the landfill, and all I can do is echo what he said.
Okay.
Is going on now.
What's this one?
But my little speech is going to be more about this permit. And as y'all know, they're operating under a 2-year interim permit, which was up in 2005. You guys extended that at that time, and that's what we're under still. Now you're asking to modify this permit again, which the permit had 68 omissions when it was sent before you guys to approve, and it was. I'll just read you some of the stuff of the reports that I've got. Cherokee Nation is requesting a minor permit modification to reopen Cherokee Nation landfill and construct a new cell for disposal of solid waste. Cell construction is a major federal action, requiring reciting procedures just as if a new landfill. In reading the CEPC rules, I noticed that this 503 permit modification, application for you guys don't have a code, but you got this the rules. You don't have a code.
I think
Is that right?
If you have comments, please make them.
Okay. The landfill is sited within an area of sandstone and shale bedrock. Shale is used as a daily and intermediate cover over the waste. Neither of these materials is suitable for final cover construction. An appropriate topsoil for vegetation is lacking within an area of the current landfill operation. Application issues related to permit held by ICI and CNFR. This permit application was never approved by CNEPC. The application submitted for approval had 68 omissions or incomplete information according to engineers from Aquaterra in their review of the application. In March 2006, Daniel B. Stevens Associates, another engineering firm, agreed with CNEPC and Aquaterra that this application was not satisfactory for approval. D.B. Stevens also found that the Cherokee Nation landfill, which operates under a 2-year conditional interim permit, was authorized in July 7, 2005, and was modified. I think it's September that year. D.B. Stevens' findings from a site visit on September 24, 2007 indicated that the landfill is out of compliance with regulatory requirements and operating in a manner that presents undue environmental risks. Landfill disposal capacity is completely filled or overfilled. The existing liner footprint has been completely filled and no disposal capacity remains, yet they still accept sewage from the city of Stillwell. Waste exposed on the side slopes are due to erosion of the soil cover and uncontrolled stormwater runoff. Current slope conditions make maintenance nearly impossible and at the very least risky. Leachette Pond is completely filled with no freeboard for existing capacity and has overflowed 3 times in 2007, resulting in leachate being released from landfill property. And as recently as last week, it overflowed again. The existing permit application does not meet typical regulatory or industrial standards for landfill permits. It lacks detailed engineering calculations and are generally included in a permit. It does not include slope stability, leachate generation, stormwater control system calculations. Methane concentrations along the landfill's eastern boundary exceed explosive limit for methane and in the subsurface soil and bedrock. This is a violation of the Subtitle D landfill regulations. There is no active gas collection or control system at the landfill. During the time this permit application has been enforced, Cherokee Nation Landfill has been fined $1,650,000 for various violations and ignored many other notices of violation, never submitting a permit application or master plan. I don't see how you can consider approving this application knowing all the complications this landfill presents to the environment and health and public health. I know you continue to say that everything is fine down there, but you are not willing to undergo an independent study by an agency that has no prior affiliation or contract with the Cherokee Nation. I'm speaking for over some 300 people down there, and I'm saying this permit should be terminated instead of modified. And 40 CFR 27043, the following causes for terminating a permit during its term or for denying a permit renewal application: non-compliance by the permittee with any condition of the permit. And we know that's happened. The permittee's failure in the application or during the permit issuance process to disclose fully all the relevant facts, or the permittee's misrepresentation of the relevant facts at any time. That's federal regs. So we have cause for termination. Thank you.
Yeah, I would appreciate it, Jack. That's a good idea. If you would furnish us with copies of those comments,
Yeah.
that would be appreciated.
Okay.
And if you could give those to Mr. Elkins, and we'll
Okay.
make them a part of the record, because it
All right.
might be easier to determine. I would have a couple of comments, Mr. Crittenden. One of the things that you opened with was you guys are asking to modify the permit, and you're addressing that to this commission. I understand that we're not asking to do anything. We have been asked to look over and determine whether a permit should be issued or modified. But the Environmental Protection Commission is not asking
Okay.
anything. That's not our job, and that's not our function. And believe me, we've not asked for any of this.
When Mr. Gallicatcher said something about the out-of-state trash, now according to what I heard on this permit modification, it doesn't say that they will not take out-of-state trash.
I don't think, there again, that's not before the commission at this time. I do not know personally whether or not they will take out-of-state trash or not at this point in time.
Is that even our purview?
But again, I don't know that that's our purview. But I do know this, that is not before the commission at this time.
If it's not this body, who do we go to stop that out-of-state trash?
Mr. Elkins?
I believe our AG's office has established that would be within the authority of the Cherokee Council,
And with that, that'd be a great place to
if
go.
that is in fact ever done.
Yes.
And I have some refreshments. Anybody wants some of it?
I was wondering if that was for cooling off on a hot day. Yeah, is that from the storm flows?
Yeah, I'd like to have somebody test it. It's
The gentleman to your left would be, I'm sure, happy to.
Well,
Respond.
I mean, we've taken samples at all the ponds and everything. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking one out of a pop bottle, but we did use sampling bottles that were original sampling bottles to do that.
but you didn't sample this stuff.
I don't know where you got that, but I wouldn't use a pop bottle to do it.
Mr. Baines was there this morning when I got it.
Just yesterday morning.
Was it yesterday morning?
Okay, with that,
All right.
appreciate your comments.
As
And
always.
if you will, be sure and give us copies now.
I will.
Okay. The floor is open. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir.
Nathan Moulton, live in Cherokee near the landfill. Have a seat, I guess.
Please, that'd be fine.
Just want to say that, you know, what the other gentleman said, we have problems down there. And, you know, there's just a few of us. Most other people, it's their job to, you know, try to get the trash dumped down in there. But, you know, we need help from y'all to get things done right. I mean, we need it. You know, I don't know what to say. That's just, most people that's here doesn't live by the landfill or have to put up with any of the stuff that we do. And it ain't right. So I'm just asking y'all to try to help us out down there.
Well, I can assure you that we're doing our best to try to ensure that it is done right. You recall the comments of Mr. Crittenden about over $1 million in fines that have been assessed recently. And that's what we're trying to do to ensure that this is done properly. There's some things you can do and some things you can't do, but that's one thing we can do, and that's what we've been trying to do. And I appreciate your comments, and I can assure you that this council, or this commission right here, these three people, are doing everything we know to do to try to make sure all this is done right. It can be frustrating, and I know it's frustrating to the individuals that live around there, but we're doing what we can. Is there any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Jack?
I'm from Mayor County, Councilman of the district. I just have clarification, perhaps. I've got several phone calls on several of the compliance issues that the former landfill operator was guilty of, and I got my packet today, and maybe this ought to be directed toward CNB, because a lot of their comments is addressed on attachment A. And I was going to ask Brad, is this what I can tell them? When they come complaining about the leachate and everything all over again, is this the schedule when it's kind of going to be fixed after you all take over?
We can't, is the Schedule A?
Yeah,
Compliance.
it's the packet that they handed out.
Let us look real quick.
You're talking about the Alcantara concerns. The compliance is called attachment A compliance schedule. Is that something I can give my constituents and tell them all their questions and comments this morning? This is how you all going to address them and take care of them in a timely fashion?
No, that is correct.
Okay, I can tell them.
And you can feel free to distribute this, and they can contact us and we'll distribute it legally. So if the permit is granted to C&D, this is a compliance schedule that the EPC has asked us to abide by, and we will give you our permission to do just that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Crittenden, I know you've got another one, but let's see if anybody else wants to talk first. And if not, I'll recognize you again,
I
Jack.
just wonder if it's proper for me to present this CD to y'all to watch. I don't, you don't have any set up here for it, but it's some.
Hey, if you'll submit that to Tom, I'm sure that we'll review it, yes. Okay. No more questions or comments? Any comments from up here?
I want to make sure that the attachment A compliance schedule as proposed is given to those folks that are here today so they can circulate that around. Tom, if we can get copies made before they leave.
Okay, attachment A was
It's the schedule.
originally attached to the schedule of compliance on the proposed modification.
Yes, sir.
Yes, if anyone would like a copy of this, we can, before you leave today, I'm sure we can make it available. It is a schedule of compliance. With that, we'll move on to item 4, solid waste permit modification, Cherokee Nation Sanitary Landfill. 4A is presentation of permit modification. Tom.
Thank you, Cliff. Well, I won't read the whole thing to you. It's a couple pages long. We've had this posted since we posted the notice for the meeting to the public, and we've had no one come and look at it. We sent it to the council members, and the normal mail out of people that get the information for the Environmental Protection Commission. And again, it's been available on the agenda. We've had it posted from 8:30 in the morning so that we could make sure we had normal business hours till 4:30 in the afternoon. Besides the permit, modification, proposed permit modification. We've had the actual plans for the original Cherokee footprint and all the particular iterations of plans that went up to date. These drawings, and they might be going over a little bit later when we have the presentation by Cherokee Nation businesses, but to give a little more insight to what's going to be done. The permit modification itself.
Before you go on, you say that you've had that posted. Why don't, for the record, why don't you tell us where all it's been posted?
Well, according to the agenda, we've had it. Our office is located at 206 East Allen Road, just by the NSU Stadium, and it's been posted there since, I believe, the 14th. It might have been the 13th, but I believe it was the 14th. This was posted, and then we're open there from 8 till 5 in the afternoon, and it's been available in a separate room for anyone. We've had a sign-in sheet and all the material laid out for folks to see. And then, like I said, we've sent out the proposed permit modification. We couldn't send out everything. I mean, we're talking about volumes and volumes and volumes of plans and larger diagrams and things of that nature, but it's been accessible to anyone that would like to have seen it. I didn't see the thing from Mr. Crittenden. I would have liked to have that to include it in the record for today, but we can certainly take that and put that in with it.
If you would, please.
Certainly. Again, I won't read the whole permit modification to you. It's somewhat lengthy, but it just goes on about how they're proposing to change the permit, to modify that as such. I will say that I don't think anybody here has proposed that there aren't issues out there. Well, I guess my purpose is in this is to say that we do know that there are regulatory issues out there. And the reason I say that is this last week we had what I would consider an environmental issue. We had, I don't know how many inches of rainfall out at the landfill, caused the leachate to spill over and actually left the perimeter of the landfill site. That is an environmental issue. That is a substantial environmental issue. Not a regulatory issue, it's an environmental issue. We need to stop those kinds of things. The only way I see that happening is if an operator that will take responsibility for this takes over that landfill and fix these issues. That would be one way. Another way would be to close the landfill. That doesn't seem as an option, a viable option right now. That wasn't an option that was put in front of us. This is a viable option. I'm not saying it's the best. It's one that's put in front of us and very well doable according to our statutes and our rules. So that's why I presented it to you today. We're presenting it to this body today. As you'll go through the modification, it has signatures for you folks on this. Again, it goes through. We negotiated these that made sense through the engineer and through our specialists at the Office of Environmental Protection. Just the certain things that they would be doing. Monitoring, reporting. These go through our federal regs and through our Cherokee Nation rules and statutes. They comply with these. We went through and hit some through with the attachment A, the compliance schedules. These are things that we know to be of interest in the past that are going to be environmental issues soon that need fixed now. And these are reasonable timetables that these folks, if this permit modification is granted, that they can do that will fix these issues out there. Attachment B are just some of these volumes of the documents that have been the iterations that have done over the period of time that started out with the original Cherokee footprint and go through to what we see today up on the board here. And then attachment C is just a list of, I know there was some concern of not having adequate equipment out there. And we want that to be an attachment to the permit. If they do, in fact, get a permit, we want to know that they're going to have adequate equipment out there to do this job. We don't want them, we want it to be doable. And if it's not going to be doable, we're not going to recommend it to this body. We believe that this package is doable and that it will fix the environmental issues out there. One issue of timeliness, we've received some letters from who is the operator of record recently from Pitchland and Associates, Indian Country Investments. One of their letters, and it's within your package, dated March 14th, speaks about they don't want to be removed as operator of this landfill. They're not acting as the operator of this landfill. They've abandoned this landfill, and we stand with these environmental issues right now. We sent them a letter, and I sent them a letter that says, we don't see any evidence that you're acting as the operator of this landfill, that you've abandoned it. Please send us any evidence that shows that you wish to be considered the continuing operator. I received another letter that's in your package that says, I haven't seen any evidence of that nature, but that they reject that and would like to stay continuing as the operator of that landfill. But again, it just doesn't seem reasonable. I don't know if we have a representative of Indian Country Investments here today, but I have not seen any evidence to the contrary that they are, in fact, the operator. So I would present this modification to you today with this in mind.
Question?
Yes.
So I understood you took an action as a result of the off-site discharge of the leachate?
We certainly did. We had issued a notice of violation to Indian Country Investments and Cherokee Nation Financial Resources. They're still named on the permit, and they objected to the notice of violation in the second letter and re-objected to being removed unilaterally, as they call it, by the Environmental Protection Commission.
And the grounds for rejecting the notice of violation?
I really didn't see any grounds for that, except that they rejected that and didn't wish that to be the case. I couldn't delineate any grounds except that they don't believe that's warranted.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If I understand you correctly, these this compliance schedule would go into effect immediately upon issuance of this permit?
Yes, sir.
Or this modification?
It would.
And are you convinced that this board has authority to modify the permit in this way, and which is basically removing ICI from further responsibility as of this date?
My understanding, and through the AG's office, is yes. With the terms that are in this permit modification, it would simply be a modification where Indian Country Investments is removed as the operator, and Cherokee Nation Businesses would replace them as operator of the landfill.
Has the General Counsel's office advised as to whether or not they consider that any kind of such modification would be considered a breach of contract by ICI?
I would ask.
Or a breach of contract of ICI's contract?
They might consider that. There's lawsuits involving breaches of contract going both ways from both parties, so.
It'd just be one more issue, huh?
Yeah. I mean, what they'll consider it, I don't know.
Okay.
Their responses to the notices for modification and also for the NOV simply state that they want to maintain any defenses at law that they may have, so on and so forth. They don't mention specific defenses. They don't say we are the operator by contract. They don't even say that. They don't say pursuant to this contract we have the rights to operate. They don't say that. I think the nation's position in Cali might address this more is that they haven't been operating under the contract. They're not performing the contract, and that the contract is basically been terminated. There's litigation going both ways about that.
Gentlemen, I would like to stress this. We issued that notice of violation last week because of the heavy rains. We're coming into the heavy rain season now, and we're going to see nothing but more of this. And if we want this fixed, now's the time to fix it.
Is there in place any kind of a system whereby the environmental issues that are currently existing and have arisen under the ICI purview or during the time that the contract was in effect can be identified so that any issues that arise thereafter are not going to be, we're not going to get into a situation where we can't tell when this problem arose?
Well, I think most of the happenings to this point have been well documented at the Environmental Protection Commission meetings through notices of violation or other minutes of the meeting. So there is an administrative record of sorts of what has been going on from the beginning of whenever till now. So I believe that's pretty well documented. Contractual things of that nature, just my opinion, I wouldn't believe would be handled here.
Marty shows me a note whether or not there's a certification of current status. I'm not familiar with the term, but I understand the meaning of it. I also think that should be done. I know this: if a problem arises the day after we issue this permit, ICI is going to say, wasn't on our watch. And so we better be sure what the current status is, because...
Again, I would think that would be a contractual issue, responsibility of the people that own and operate. I don't know if that would be within my responsibilities. Not that our office wouldn't handle something like that if asked, but...
That's one of the situations that is in our purview, though, protection of the
That
interests
may
of the
well
Cherokee
be,
Nation.
sure.
You better be under somebody's responsibility, because it's going to be a problem. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I've been sort of hard pressed.
For the record, please state your name.
I'm Joe Crittenden on Tribal Council,
Yes.
District 2. I've been in the past sort of hard pressed to agree with ICI's operation and a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with in the last couple of years or so. But I find myself sort of in agreement with them this morning with these two letters that they addressed to Tom. In paragraph 3 of both letters, March 14 and March 20 letter, they're dealing with the very thing you were talking about as far as what's happened up until today as far as problems with the landfill, potential problems. And they're asking for an audit or an environmental audit or an assessment for the very reason that you just touched on a while ago. And I've been in agreement with that all along. So I just like to make that a part of the comments and record today.
We appreciate that, and I can tell you that and I'll go on record right now, I think we all would be interested in what CNB has to say about that and what can be done. I think that assessment needs to be made, partially by CNB, but it also should be looked over by some other parties. Yes, sir.
Just speaking with Mr. Carson from Cherokee Nation Businesses, there was some speculation that this should be done on the part for the Cherokee Nation citizens of sorts anyway. And I believe they've agreed to do that anyway. It may well be best that they contract with an independent firm to do that.
It's not really this commission's purview, but I think that would be best, because otherwise you're going to get into a argument with them about whether or not it was done by someone who had a vested interest in it.
Certainly.
You have a comment?
I think I do. I think what I've got circling around in my head today is that we, the Cherokees, have landfill sitting over at Stillwell, and we're sitting here spending energy on ICI. Now, that's outside the purview of why I think I'm here. For the record, I'll say ICI has acted anything but as the operator for the last couple of months. And for them to come in here today with those letters, with due respect, kind of slaps me between the ears, in that if they were really trying to be accountable and trying to look after the interests of the Cherokee people, they'd be sitting here in this room today and they'd be coming forward with an EA or environmental assessment or whatever else we needed to evaluate that landfill. But from my vantage, I have seen no responsibility exerted by ICI. And I take your comments and I support you in principle, but when the rubber hits the highway, ICI isn't sitting here. It's Cherokee people sitting here trying to figure this out. And that's my comment. That's kind of where I am. We've got a problem south of Stillwell, and it's that landfill. And we can't sit here and talk about it. We need to get action implemented. Period. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Biden. I agree with you to a certain extent, and it is the Cherokee people's problem, and it is something we need to aggressively try to solve, and hopefully we're taking action to do that. By the same token, I think an assessment is necessary so that we don't create more problems for the Cherokee people.
Well, let me rephrase that. The point I was trying to get to is I would rather be betting on Cherokees to find this environmental assessment than to rely on ICI or anyone else that's connected with them to come in here and prove to us what's in that landfill.
I agreed with that.
Okay?
I'm
That's
with
what
you
I was
there.
trying to get across, is that they're not in this room, and here we are, and we need to just try to get this thing moving and figure out what's in the best interest for all concerned.
With that, is there any more comment before we move to, well, item B, discussion by environmental staff? I guess we've already kind of,
That was more of a, if there were questions from other people and you needed more field people.
are there any other questions? Yes, sir. Chris.
Just briefly to Mr. Pine's comments. I didn't make my comments in support of ICI, sir.
Oh, I know you didn't. I just was...
It goes straight to the health and welfare of the people in Adair County. And beyond that, I care not a whole lot. You know, my main issue is the health and welfare of those people. And that's why I think this independent or this audit ought to be performed. And I found myself in agreement with their suggestion. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll pursue
Nathan Moulton, Cherokee. When I spoke earlier, you know, and y'all said, yeah, we're on your side. We find, you know, certain people, and that's what y'all do. If C and B, is that who's going to take over maybe? Yeah. Okay. If they was not to do this and you was to assess fines, who would be paying? Cherokee Nation? Be paying themselves their fines? That's all I was...
I don't think they're paying themselves.
I mean, but do you see what I'm saying?
I understand, Tom.
That's what the problem is.
Well, I mean, CNB is an instrument of Cherokee Nation government. So that business would definitely be paying it to the Environmental Protection Commission. And then, again, hopefully, the fines are just a mechanism to get things done. And hopefully we don't need to get things done. But if it is, definitely that would be what the whole rationale of that is to make things happen.
Well, you know, I think where we are on this, and of course this is a proposal for a modification, and that modification has not been acted upon yet. But I will say this. We tried ICI. That was an independent firm. They didn't do so well. They don't have a very good track record. They did not meet these compliance deadlines, nor did, in many instances, did they even appear to attempt to meet them. What we're doing now, I assume, or what you're proposing now, is that the Cherokee Nation gain control of this landfill once again and make every attempt to do it right. And the Cherokee Nation is the one that is harmed if it's not done right. And ultimately, the Cherokee Nation is responsible for this landfill. So I think it only appropriate that that the nation takes the responsibility and does everything in its power to ensure that this is appropriately handled, whether it was closed, which is a tremendous problem in and of itself, and or whether it continues to operate. So
I have a follow-on question for staff. We've heard citizens describe several problems: road trash, runoff, leachate, methane, materials controls among them, and we've certainly been informed with these processes for the entire time I've been on this commission. Do you believe, you've been in your current role as director of the Environmental Protection Commission for 3 months. Do you believe, based on your experience in the last 3 months, that you have the proper staff to adequately inspect and enforce and therefore protect the interests of the Cherokee Nation for a landfill if you're serving as both an enforcement and compliance assistant service provider?
Very good question. I think there are challenges that we have.
Please be more explicit. Challenges meaning...
I will. I just said that to say this. As I said at our last Environmental Protection Commission meaning our rules they're inadequate. We have to work on those, but that's a process. That's not going to happen before our next Environmental Protection Commission. Internally at the Cherokee Nation, we spoke about that. I brought that up, and we're looking at a mechanism to make that happen. Again, that's not going to happen overnight. We have budgeting processes and things to happen. I mean, the AG's office has been very nice about allowing Ms. Johnson to work with us, and that's excellent. But she's got limited time. We need more staff to work on those kind of things. We need attorneys to work on those kind of things, or an attorney, or we need resources to push towards that. We will work towards those.
Do you have an engineer on staff?
Engineer, no. But I'm not so sure that we need an engineer, as we have technical people, but we need an attorney to go through. We can handle the technical part of it. We need the lawyer stuff. We don't have that in our office, and we have to beg, borrow, and steal from the AG's office to have that. And so far, we've gotten that.
Do you have adequate staff for inspection?
We do.
You don't find event inspection to be problematic? Event inspection means it never rains between 9 and 5, on Monday through Friday.
No, we can do that. We can put the resources where we need to. That's not a problem. That's just scheduling, and that's office work.
Okay.
We can get that. That's not a problem. And we have the resources financially to do that. We've been given that from the nation. In fact, as more trash goes into the nation, we will be building more capital for that, to work towards that. We get a piece of every ton that goes across those scales for environmental watchdog purposes.
One of the concerns I have is 6 miles down this road, I don't want to have the prospect that we don't have the resources to do that which we're supposed to do crop up after the fact. We need to anticipate that before.
Certainly. And again, that's just, we make adjustments all the time. And if that becomes that, we'll make an adjustment to that. And that's just business. That's what you do.
Thank you.
With that, if there's no more comments, questions, let's move on to item 4C, presentation by Cherokee Nation Businesses. Mr. Carson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm Brad Carson, CEO and President of Cherokee Nation Businesses. I didn't find the landfill found me. But we are here not to perpetuate a problem that many people might believe, but rather to try to solve one for the Cherokee Nation. My job as CEO of CNB is to make sure that the resources of the Cherokee Nation, the financial resources at least, are spent wisely in ways that employ people, promote the economic development of this region and of the nation specifically, and that we leave a legacy for future generations. I believe the landfill, if properly run, can be part of that legacy. Now, it is true, as many people might have noted in their comments, at least implicitly, that if this were 1982 and there were questions about whether to open a landfill in southern Adair County, different decisions would be reached than those that I myself believe are wise today. But we are presented with certain facts on the ground. Notably that we've had a lot of eloquent testimony from people who live in the area about the problems they see with the landfill. Closure of the landfill will cost, it is estimated, between $10 and $20 million. Those are very good reasons to try to continue to operate it, because we can operate it in such a way that closure will be less expensive through the engineering of new cells. At the same time, we believe, and many are skeptical of this, but we believe that we can find a future for the landfill that adds value to the Cherokee people. And that is really all that we want to do. There have been much discussion already about the permit. The permit application that we have sought and that we have worked closely with people in the Cherokee Nation to do has been invaluably aided by many people who are critics of the very approach of which I advocate. Mr. Crittenden and Ms. Fishinghawk, who do not associate themselves with the work I'm trying to do, have made many points that we have tried to incorporate into our plans, into our vision for the landfill, as have many people who are citizens of the Cherokee people. This is a controversial matter, as landfills always are. But I believe that the best option for the landfill is for CNB to operate it, and operate it in such a way that we can add value to the Cherokee people. We have many things on our plate, but there are 4 matters I'd like to talk about that we will immediately focus our attention on. First of all, we will hire an outside party to do an environmental assessment. We are not involved in the litigation between the nation and ICI, but we are, of course, an interested party in that litigation, and we believe it is in our interest, the nation's interest, and in fact, ICI's interest to have a forensic view of this landfill as it stands today, where we know what we caused, what they caused, and that is essential, and that will be a first priority to us. The second matter is, of course, this leachate question. We, in our plan, will hopefully in a matter of months get rid of the entire leachate pond that has caused us these problems, moving to a tank system, which is state-of-the-art practice in landfill design. Now, that is not an easy task. We estimate conservatively that there are almost 5 million gallons of water in the leachate pond. We are tanking it out today at a pace of about 70,000 tons a day. And so you can imagine this is a project that is going to require heroic effort over the next few months. But we believe it is critical to the success of the landfill that we never have another overflow of the leachate pond. To that end, we intend to raise the berm that surrounds the leachate pond as an interim measure to, while this progress is going forward during the rainy season, we can hopefully avoid what has happened over the last week. We also intend to look and work on addressing the stormwater issues, a key concern for both this commission and for many citizens of the Cherokee Nation. We believe that through various engineering approaches, terracing, diversions, vegetative buffer zones, things such as this, that we can deal with the stormwater problems that have plagued the landfill. And finally, the question of windborne trash. You know, I visited the landfill. I know that's a concern. It's been mentioned here today, that we will put in place various measures to minimize, if not eliminate, the problems of windborne trash. C&B is going to commit millions of dollars to this project. We estimate conservatively that this first phase, the build-out that is reflected in the whiteboard over here, is going to cost about $15 million. That is the advantage that we can bring to bear. The Cherokee Nation government here has many fine people who have tried to run the landfill, but they are hamstrung by problems that we don't face at C&B. Our budgeting process is more flexible. We do multiple year capital budgeting, which is not the way of governments. And we have people who could be dedicated to the project in ways that the nation itself found difficult to do. We believe that this plan that we put forward and the resources we put together, some of whom are in the room today with me, experts in the engineering side of things, one of the state's leading hydrologists, that we're going to run a landfill that in its environmental practices is equal to any landfill in the country. That will make this commission proud, will make the nation proud, and I think over time will show the people of South Adair County, which is where my family is from too, that this is an asset to them. This landfill, a separate company, fully owned by C&B, and we are fully owned by the Cherokee Nation, will be a good citizen of Adair County. It will be investing back into the community to improve not only the environment of that area, but the general welfare of the citizens there. I appreciate the comments from Mr. Crittenden and other Cherokee citizens who are here, and from the many critics. I don't believe that there are a lot of options on the table. We believe that this plan has an expected value worth millions of dollars if we run it according to best practices. Closure. A closure that will have to be funded from dollars allocated to health care for Cherokees, for dentures, for glasses, for language immersion programs. That's where the closure will be funded from if we don't move forward. So that would be devastating. And again, decisions might have been different 25 years ago. If we were debating the merits of opening a landfill in South Adair County. Today, I believe, and I say this respectfully to those many critics of this plan, that there's really only one option, which is moving forward. The landfill, I will say as a final matter, has many problems. We know this. We are not going to add to those problems. With our capital and with our expertise and with our commitment, we will be the solution to those problems. And it is true, I'm sure Mr. Elkins, whose great staff, Sean and John and others, have been the model of how a regulator should be. They have been professionally distant but cooperative at all times, which is to me the model of what this commission should do. In working with them, they will have no fear of finding C&B. I have no doubt of that. But because this is a family matter now, if you will, fines are the least of the weapons that he will have over me. I have no doubt that if I run the landfill like ICI did, my job itself will be in jeopardy. I appear before this council, before the council in this chamber a couple of times a month, and so they will have ample opportunity to interrogate me. Most of them have my cell phone, and I talk to them frequently. And so there are lots of both formal and informal measures, in addition to fines, that will be powerful incentives for us to run this in the right way. I appreciate the chance to be here. I appreciate the chance to work with the Commission. We believe this can be an asset. We believe our plans maximize the chance of its success, and we respectfully present them to this Commission.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Assuming this permit is granted or modification is granted, I sure hope that you don't get too many calls on your cell phone. I doubt that that's the case. Okay, is there anything else from C&B? Any other comments? Mr. Crittenden?
Yeah. I just want to say that, Mr. Elkins said he issued a notice of violation. Well, the settlement agreement that was approved not too long ago takes care of all that. I mean, it doesn't make any difference for you. You can't do anything to them for the things that's already happened down there. And they're still happening, The settlement agreement happened.
I think that's factually incorrect, but because I have the same concern, and I think that they addressed my concerns regarding that issue, but Mr. Elkins can address that. Sorry.
I really don't know how to readdress that, but
Why issue a notice of violation when you've already told them in the settlement agreement that you can't do anything to them about it anymore?
well, that's not completely true, as the Commissioner states. Again, that addressed certain delineated objects in that document you're speaking about. Anything outside of that is fair game for anything, and we've addressed those.
And this was outside of that.
Very much so. And if C&B takes it, we'll be completely outside of that.
Yes, our legal counsel clarified that for me in no uncertain terms when I misunderstood the reading too.
I have one last comment from Mr. Carson. The people that live down there, it's not about money to them. And you guys are looking at it from a business point of view. You're not looking at it from the human side of it, as far as we're concerned down there. We just assume that thing be closed. But we realize that we do need a landfill for the local people around here, and it should be operated as a convenience for the Cherokee people. But we don't want all this Arkansas trash and all this other stuff coming in down here. We're tired of it. That's all I say.
Mr. Moulton?
Nathan Moulton, Cherokee. Been listening to everything going on. We have $15 million roughly to keep it open, but we don't have $15 million to close it. I know maybe they expect to get some of it back later, but I mean, if you know what I'm saying? I mean, they keep saying there's no option but to keep it open, and it's going to be an asset. And just like Mr. Crittenden said, it might be an asset to some people that doesn't live there and don't have to put up with all the birds and the smell and all the other stuff that comes along with the landfill. I mean, I think there's more options than just this is our only option. But that's all I want to say. I mean, thank you.
Appreciate your comment. All right, moving on. I think we've got a comment in the back, I understand. Comment? Okay. With that, we move on to the next item, which is, I assume, item D, although it also states item C. And before we call for the vote, Mr. Elkins, do you have any comments to make as far as any recommendations for or against this modification?
Are you asking for my opinion?
We're asking, yes.
Okay. Thank you, because I try not to give that unless I'm asked, especially if it's very controversial. Again, the folks that live around there, I don't live there, right around there, so I don't know. I can't speak with that kind of authority. And maybe, I would have a different opinion. I try to juxtaposition a lot of things. I try not to put what I put before you, because I don't think that's my place. I think I should take the federal statutes, the Cherokee Nation statutes, and our rules, and what I believe is the best for the Cherokee Nation as a whole, and put something reasonable before you, something that fits within that. There's always going to be speculation. Should we have a landfill? Should we not? We know that when Subtitle D came around, there was a decision, should we keep that landfill? We could have closed it then and closed it. And maybe we wouldn't have the issues that we have now. But the decision was made. It was a service to the people around there, to the Cherokee Nation, to a lot of the people outside of the Cherokee Nation, just the Cherokee Nation as a good neighbor. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's what decision we made at the time. And as we've talked about today, we can speculate about what would have been and what should be and what has and hasn't happened. This is what we have on the table right now. This is the information that we have in front of us. We know the science of it. We know somewhat the opinions about it and all that. Nobody wants a landfill, but they're a necessary evil. Is it polluting all the water out there? I really don't think so. And I can really pull out data that shows you that that's not the case. Now, if I lived there or if people lived right down there, would I be concerned about it? I may. But because of my background, I'm not. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be, but these are the decisions that you have to make, gentlemen. And is it reasonable to modify this permit? Is it reasonable to change this so that these problems here can be fixed? Certainly. Could it be closed? If it could be closed, that may be another alternative. Is that reasonable? Is that more reasonable than modifying this permit? I don't think so. I think it's more reasonable to modify the permit and fix the issues that are out there. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cheap. There's going to be speculation down the line. There is. But that's the jobs that we take. This is what we do. And I think it's the most reasonable thing.
If it were to be closed, and I think the comments today were that it would take $15 to $20 million to close it. In the first place, do you agree with that?
Oh, I don't know if that's completely true. It may be much more than that. Yeah, I'd say every bit of that.
This money would obviously come from the Cherokee Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there money in place to close it at this point in time?
No. It would have to come from somewhere. The Cherokee, is there a pot of money substantial enough to close this landfill tagged for that? No.
If the landfill continues in operation, and I assume that it's going to be continuing operation for a profit, will there be money set aside for the closure in the future when it is absolutely necessary?
Plan. And this is just another, and again, I'm speaking opinion, but I think it's pretty well knowledgeable opinion. If, in fact, we allow people from Arkansas to put trash in there, people from Arkansas will be paying to close the landfill.
Well, my point is, but there will be money set aside for closure.
Yes, sir.
And who will be policing to ensure that that money is set aside for the ultimate closure?
To a certain extent, us. Part of the statutes say that we have to show that there's a plan to close that, monetary and just a plan to close that.
Will there be any bonding requirements?
Not specifically. There's different mechanisms for them to do that. And that hasn't been, that's really not part of this permit. We will definitely make sure that they follow the regulations on it.
Well, General Counsel's going to weigh in here. Good.
You can please.
I might assist with this. One of the issues that has been part of litigation with ICI has to do with funding the closure account. One of the other issues that was mentioned by Mr. Elkins earlier concerning the statutes and laws of the Cherokee Nation with regard to solid waste, they do not specifically address how closure will be determined, nor how it will be funded. Other states, like for instance Oklahoma, I've been looking at their statutes and regulations and possibly adopting some of those because they're very specific about how to determine that. And it would be very clear for whoever is permitted and also for this commission to know how much should be in the account and whether it's sufficiently funded. If it's not sufficiently funded, that is when the commission can take action as to how, and it's been an ongoing issue of how do you calculate that and when is it adequately funded. Not something that does need to be addressed.
And again, it can be put up as a cash bond, it can be put up bonding, it can be put up in different mechanisms, escrow accounts, all different kinds of manners to do that.
Mr. Carson?
If I could just supplement Mr. Elkins' comments. There is a current Cherokee law that requires $1 of the tipping fee per ton be placed into a closure account. If C&B operates the landfill, the nation will still be the custodian of that account. You'll pay $1 per ton, which is in industry practice a rough proxy of what the closure would be. At the end of each year, an auditor will look at an engineering report. An engineer will come in, estimate the closure costs, see whether the amount of the fund is equal to what they estimate on an actuarial basis the closure fund should be. And we will have to supplement the fund if the engineer suggests that. So there is a mechanism in place by statute that we will be funding the closure amount.
And who will have authority over those accounts?
That money will be remitted to Callie Ketcher, the financial resources group here. She will be the custodian of that trust fund.
And she's heading for the door right now.
Yeah, and I know she got up right quick.
They won't be remitted to Callie Catcher, just for the record. They will be remitted to Cherokee Nation. We maintain a restricted cash account for closure for the landfill. It has been in place since I've been involved with landfill discussions. Tentatively, what Brad and I discussed is it would be a similar arrangement. They would remit $1 per ton into this account, which cannot be touched, and at the end of the year, it would be evaluated. If we were short, he would put the difference in. We haven't discussed any refunds if he was overfunded, but that's not been an issue. And we have that invested in a collateralized bank account so that we're not going to lose the money, but we do earn interest on that account, and it is restricted specifically for closure.
How much money's in that account presently?
Presently, there's approximately $2.1 million.
If I understand correctly, that's part of the litigation as to whether or not ICI is to add to that fund?
Yes. Because as Mr. Carson mentioned, the $1 per ton fee, I believe it was it $1 or $2 per ton, was supposed to go into the closure account, and at a certain, they had paid it initially at a certain time, they quit paying it, and in the litigation we have sought to obtain that remaining amount per ton that they did not pay us.
How much is that? If you know.
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
A few $100,000 at most, I think.
200,000?
A few $100,000.
200,000.
I don't remember.
Again, I go back to my original comments. ICI is not here, and they have not been anywhere on the horizon in a long bit of time, so leave that up to the lawyers on that side, but we can handle that. Personally, I give a lot of stock to Mr. Carson and folks at CMB that things are going to get better under their proposal for all of us.
I think that if we were to vote for this modification, we'd all be saying we sure hope so. With that, is there any more comment? If not, we will move on to item 4D, and that's I call the vote to whether or not we modify this permit.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second. For the modification?
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Matlock,
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
With that, we'll move on to item 5, new business, matters not known or not reasonably foreseen prior to posting the agenda. Is there any such business? Item, I think that probably is 6 instead of 7. Announcement of upcoming meetings and events. When's our next meeting?
We spoke a little bit at our last meeting about skipping an April meeting. I wanted to see if we might modify our schedule to every other month unless there was a need for that we could call a special meeting or a meeting of some sorts. And to see, I've been told, and since the EPC's inception, it's been a long time ago, but it was reinvigorated a few years ago, and those meetings were begun on Tuesdays. Is it the will of the council, of the commission, that we go back to that and maybe begin on Tuesday, April the 8th, at the normal time of 9:30?
Okay, so are you proposing a meeting
I am
on the 8th?
proposing that.
I'll be in
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I meant May. I
meant May.
apologize for that.
May.
That would be the 6th, Tuesday.
I can do it.
I can tell you right now that at this point in time, I'm scheduled to be in, as I recall, 3 different trials in 3 different places. Obviously, that's not going to take place.
What's the
I
fourth
have,
one?
I have no idea where I will be, but I will be at this meeting if I can.
I would think that you would make this a priority just so you could see the rock silt traps and silt fences on outfall 6, 7, and 8.
I can assure you that if I can get that judge over in Arkansas to allow me to come to this meeting, I will be here.
There's been a lot of talk about Arkansas here
There
today.
sure has.
I'm being quiet about that.
May 6th, you're talking about then trying to make it every other month, the first Tuesday,
Beginning on May 6th.
beginning
Yes,
on
sir.
May 6th.
That's fine with me. I have one thing I'd like to say related to the landfill. There's been discussion about Arkansas and out-of-state trash. That is a function that the council will need to wrestle with. That's something that the EPC cannot deal with. And I hope everyone understands that. And we're sensitive to that, but that's beyond our purview.
May I ask too, this room worked out for this meeting, and up to the past few meetings, when there were volumes of people, the office on Allen Road worked well. I'm looking around for a different place that might be a little bit larger. Does this work? And would you like me to seek this room in the future, or?
Is there a way to seat us closer to the constituents so we have more of a
It feels.
interaction instead of feeling?
I imagine we could put a table right up here and.
That would help, because I feel like that we're at a disadvantage because we're not
Sure.
able to put people.
A less formal setting, I think, for most of our activities, it would certainly be more in keeping with our attitude.
Okay. I'm looking at another building, and I'll certainly give much more notice than the normal 10 days, but if I can find something a little bit bigger with a little more parking than our office,
I know the parking's a big problem.
it is that. And so I will keep you all posted well in advance of that. But if we can go with next May 6th at 9:30 a.m. and then every other month after that.
What I would ask you to do, Commissioners, if I'm out of order, tell me, is approximately 90 days from now that we meet at the landfill to tour what has been done according to the first 90-day timeline.
Is Mr. Carson okay with that?
120 days, something like that, just kind of see what's been,
An assessment? Is that what you're
not
saying?
an assessment,
No,
just meet the
Oh, yeah,
landfill.
absolutely.
And see the things that are on this compliance schedule, just to,
I would
everyone.
Well, if we had it every 2 months, would that, see, May, June, July, September meeting work?
I don't care, but I'd like to at some point make sure
I
we
think it would
schedule
be a
the
good idea.
landfill.
I agree, and I'd like to do that before
September
September.
meeting at the landfill?
I think you said before September.
Oh, that would be fine too.
Yeah.
Why don't you propose the time at our next meeting, and we'll figure out when it's appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Probably the July meeting. Nothing like a landfill in July.
I'll move adjournment.
I second.
Been a motion and a second for adjournment?
Aye.
Yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you guys for coming.